Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my reaction to the early lines for the college football games in 2019. So 45 games are out with lines out, which basically means like favorites. Like for example, Alabama versus Arkansas. Alabama is a 28-point favorite. I actually don't know the line for that, but that's what I'm going to be talking about today. 45 games are out. I'm going to tell you all what I think about each line. Before I continue, don't forget to hit that like button and please subscribe to the channel. It will be greatly appreciated if you do. Really trying to grow the channel, so please do that. I'm going to be doing a lot of college football content in the summer, going through a lot of teams, predicting game by game and each team records. So anyways, 45 games here. Don't take any of my advice for betting because I might say like, oh, definitely take Arkansas State to cover, or definitely pick, I don't know, Oregon State. So don't take my advice, but this is just my reaction. Week zero. If you haven't heard, I did a video on this. Florida versus Miami, that got moved up to week 0 in Orlando. And Florida opened out as a 8.5-point favorite over Miami. That sounds about right, actually. I do think as of right now, Florida will beat Miami. But I can't blame you if you think that Florida will cover or if Miami will not let Florida cover. Miami will cover. So, I mean, it's your choice, but personally, this is one I would stay away from. Week 1, 3 games here. The first one, Florida State versus Boise State. Florida State is a 4.5-point favorite. I would definitely take Boise State to cover that spread. Listen, Boise State, I think they could outright win this game against Florida State, but I would definitely take Boise State in that. Auburn versus Oregon. Auburn is a 3-point favorite. That's one I would stay away from. I think that is a 50-50 game right now, that Auburn versus Oregon game in Dallas. And then the last one, South Carolina versus UNC. South Carolina is a 7-point favorite. I will actually take South Carolina to cover that 7-point spread. I think there's a lot of hype around North Carolina, and I think they're really getting overhyped. I do think Mac Brown is a great hire, but I do also think it might take 2 or 3 years for North Carolina to get to the level that they want to be at, making the ACC championship game. So that's why I would take South Carolina in that 7-point spread. I would say South Carolina will cover that. Now to the week 2 games. First one, LSU versus Texas. To me, this is the number one game to watch this year, unless there's a big conference game at the end of the year. LSU is a 6-point favorite. I would definitely take Texas to cover that. I mean, Texas, I don't think Texas would let. If LSU wins, it will be by field goal, in my opinion. In this one, I think Texas is going to beat LSU week 2. That's just my opinion. No, I do not think Texas is back, but I think Texas, they could win a game at home against LSU, even though they let my Terps go in there and beat them. So you never know. Texas A&M versus Clemson. Clemson is a 3-touchdown favorite, a 21-point favorite. Texas A&M will cover that spread. There's no way that I think that game will be a 3-touchdown game. And then the last one, Stanford versus USC. USC is a 4-point favorite. I would say Stanford covers that. I am not high on USC at all. I think Clay Helton's on a very hot seat. And I'm going to be doing a video when college football season comes closer about the coaches on the hot seat. But I think personally, I think I would take Stanford to cover. They're a 4-point underdog. I would say Stanford definitely covers that. Now to week 3, Oklahoma versus UCLA. Oklahoma is only an 11.5-point favorite. I would take Oklahoma to cover that and then some. Listen, Oklahoma is going to beat UCLA by 3 touchdowns at least, in my opinion. UCLA is not a good team at all. Arizona State versus Michigan State. Michigan State is a 4.5-point favorite. That sounds about right. I'll probably take Michigan State to cover that because I think they'll probably beat them by a touchdown. But you never know. Arizona State did beat them last year in, is it Tempe where they play? Yeah. Anyways, Stanford versus UCF. Stanford is a 2.5 point favorite over UCF. I would take UCF to probably cover that. I think these are two very even teams, and I actually can't wait to watch this one. This is one I circled that I do want to watch, but I would take UCF to cover that. I think UCF has a very good chance of winning that out front. Now to the Week 4 games, 4 of them that came out. Tennessee versus Florida. Florida's a 14.5 point favorite. Florida will cover that spread. Listen, Tennessee fans think they're going to actually win some games this year. I actually agree with them. I think they have a good shot to make a bowl game with that schedule. I just saw a schedule review of them today, and I think best case scenario for Tennessee is actually like 9-3, but they will lose to Florida. Probably by 3 touchdowns or maybe even 4 touchdowns. So definitely take Florida to cover that spread. Georgia versus Notre Dame. Georgia is an 11.5 point favorite. That spread actually sounds perfect. And I will probably take the over on that, saying Georgia will cover. I don't think Notre Dame's that good of a football team. I think they lucked into the college football playoffs, and then you saw the real Notre Dame team against Clemson. Listen, when you have trouble beating teams like Ball State, Vandy, who else? Pitt. I know Pitt was in the ACC championship game, but at 7-5. Listen, you're not that good of a football team. So Notre Dame, I think they'll probably at least losing 2 or 3 games this year. I think this one against Georgia will be one of them. Auburn versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 3.5 point favorite. Texas A&M will cover that spread, in my opinion. Auburn, another coach that's on the hot seat, Gus Malzahn. I don't know. Auburn's going to be having a new quarterback, a quarterback with not much experience. His name escapes me, but it will be in my mind when I do the Auburn predictions in June or July. By the way, I'm starting my college football predictions June 1st. I already decided that. But Auburn, listen, I just don't think you're going to be covering a 3.5 point spread, especially at College Station. And then the last one, Michigan at Wisconsin. Michigan's a 6 point favorite. That sounds about right. Michigan will be a better team than Wisconsin, but Wisconsin, you gotta give them a shot in that game. Week 5, 2 games here. Ohio State versus Nebraska. Ohio State is a 7.5 point favorite. That sounds correct. Nebraska gave Ohio State everything they could handle last year. So Nebraska could win this one. It is in Lincoln, Nebraska, so that could be a win for Nebraska, but I'll probably stay away from this one. And then USC at Washington. USC at Washington. And according to this, USC is a 7.5 point favorite. I think that is wrong. Washington should be the 7.5 point favorite. And that is the case. USC is a 7.5 point favorite against Washington. Take Washington to just flat out win it, because USC, I think, will be lucky to win 8 games this year. Speaking about USC, the next game in Week 6, USC versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame's an 11.5 point favorite. That sounds about correct. I'll probably take Notre Dame to cover that and then some. USC is not going to be a good football team, people. LSU versus Florida. They're saying, Florida versus LSU. Florida is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. I would take LSU to cover that and probably flat out win. It's in Death Valley, and I think Florida is a different. I don't think Florida is the same team. Will be the same team at home as they are on the road. So give me LSU to definitely cover that 3.5 point spread. Alabama versus Texas A&M. Alabama's a 13 point favorite on the road. I would definitely take Texas A&M to cover that. Listen, Texas A&M. I think Alabama's going to lose a regular season game, and I've narrowed it down to 3. And the 3 I've narrowed it down to is Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and LSU. And I think Texas A&M is probably the highest chance of that happening. So Definitely take Texas A&M to cover that. And then the last one, Oklahoma versus Texas, the Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma's an 11.5 point favorite. I would definitely take Texas to cover that spread, but I don't think Texas will win the game. Week 7, 2 games, Oregon at Washington. Washington is a 6.5 point favorite at home. That sounds about correct. Oregon could cover that. That's the one I would stay away from, though. And then Michigan at Penn State. Michigan is a 6.5 point favorite. I will take Penn State to cover that. Now, I don't know if Penn State will win it, but I would definitely take Penn State to cover that. Week 8 here, Washington State at Oregon. Oregon is a 4.5 point favorite. I will take Oregon to cover that spread. Washington State, they're going to be, I think, a little bit down this year. Even though I said that last year, and they turned out to be probably the second best team in the Pac-12. So you never know, but I would take Oregon to cover that as of right now. Auburn versus LSU. LSU is a 7.5 point favorite as of right now against Auburn. I would probably take LSU to cover that. Honestly, you look at LSU. They're going to be probably a top 15 team at this point. Auburn, they might not even be ranked. So I'll definitely take LSU to cover that. Texas versus TCU. TCU is a 2.5 point favorite at home against Texas. I highly recommend staying away from this one. I think this is one that Texas could very well lose. So you probably thought that I'm crazy, but listen, Texas is not back, and they're going to lose 2 or 3 games this year, and this could be one of them. So stay away from this one. Notre Dame versus Michigan. Michigan is an 8.5 point favorite. I do think Notre Dame will cover that spread. If it was at 7.5, I'll be leery to say that. But Michigan should still win that one. And then Wisconsin versus Ohio State. Ohio State is a 9 point favorite. That sounds about correct. I'll probably lean towards taking Ohio State covering that if you force me to choose, though. Week 9 here. Georgia versus Florida. Georgia is a 4 point favorite. This is one I would stay away from. I think these are going to be 2 top 15 teams playing each other in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So I would stay away from it. I think Florida has a very good shot beating them this year. Utah versus Washington. Washington is a 3 point favorite at home. That sounds like a perfect spread, and I would stay away from that one. Oregon versus USC. USC is a 1.5 point favorite. Oregon will cover and beat USC. I don't care that it's in Southern Cal's home stadium at the Coliseum. I don't care. Oregon is a much better team than USC. And then Miami versus Florida State. I always say stay away from this one every year. Florida State is a 1.5 point favorite. I would just stay away from it because you never know if this game is always close. It's always like a 3 point game, it seems like. So I would definitely just stay away from it. Okay, week 10. LSU versus Alabama. Alabama is a 17 point favorite. I'm going to be honest with you, that sounds about correct. Now, I would probably say take LSU to cover that, but let me tell you something. After last year, I am very concerned that LSU can even keep it within 3 touchdowns. So, I will stay away from it. Iowa versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 5.5 point favorite. That sounds about perfect. I'll stay away from that one too. But Iowa, they could go into Madison and beat Wisconsin. Okay, week 11 now. Georgia versus Auburn. Georgia is a 9 point favorite on the road. I will take Auburn to cover that. Now, there's 2 reasons why I would say Auburn will cover that. I'm not saying Auburn's going to win it because I don't think they will as of right now, but I could change my mind when I do the Georgia predictions, which will be early in June. But Auburn, A, is a rivalry game, and B, Kirby Smart is 0-3 on the road against SEC West teams. SEC teams in the West, and they all been blown out. So definitely something to keep your eye on there. And then Michigan State versus Michigan. Michigan is a 13 point favorite. That sounds about correct. I might even take Michigan to cover that, honestly. Okay, we're going through the home stretch now. UCLA versus USC. USC is a 6-point favorite. I would say that sounds about correct. I would probably take USC to cover that. UCLA to me is the worst team in the is probably like the second worst team in the Pac-12 in my opinion. I almost forgot about Oregon State. Anyways, Texas A&M versus Georgia. Georgia's a 15.5-point favorite at home. Texas A&M would definitely cover that. I would definitely take Texas A&M, and I think that spread will be a lot closer when that week comes in Week 12. TCU versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 3-touchdown favorite. I'm going to say TCU covers that. Now, TCU, I'm a little bit high on them maybe, but listen, outside of Oklahoma and Texas, that third spot in the Big 12, I mean, you got to think of a dark horse. So Iowa State, Oklahoma State, TCU. Those are the three teams that come to my mind that could contend for the Big 12 championship outside of Oklahoma and Texas. So definitely keep your eye on TCU, and don't forget about Baylor. They could possibly contend as well. But TCU is one of those teams that could be a dark horse in the Big 12. So that's why I'm saying TCU will cover against Oklahoma, because I think they're going to be decent this year. And then the last game here, Penn State versus Ohio State. Ohio State 10.5-point favorite. That sounds about correct, honestly. Penn State, they're going to be working out a new quarterback, so you never know. Ohio State, they might just be too talented. It's in whatever the hell you call that place in the weird state of Ohio, so it's whatever. But I do expect Ohio State to. I do like that spread a lot. I do expect Ohio State to win that game. 3 more weeks here. Texas Tech versus Texas. Texas is only a 3-point favorite at home against Texas Tech. I will advise you. Now, listen, I said at the beginning of the video, do not listen to me on betting advice. I want you to listen to me on betting advice on this one game only. Take Texas now to cover that. This game will be at least a 2-touchdown game. So take Texas now. So, and I might have to do that. So I definitely pick Texas to cover that. Now don't listen to me on the rest of these. Washington State versus Washington. Washington's a 7-point favorite at home. That sounds about correct. It is a rivalry game, so it's going to be tighter than it probably should be. But I'll probably lean towards Washington covering that. And then Cincinnati versus Memphis. This could be a huge game in the Americans. So Memphis, they are a 11.5-point favorite. I think Cincinnati will cover that. Memphis was an 8-4 team last year, I believe. Cincinnati, they were like a 10-2 team. So definitely take Cincinnati to cover that. And we will be doing football predictions on both of these teams as well. So when the time comes, probably in July. So, but definitely take Cincinnati, cover that. Then Week 14, 2 games. The game, Ohio State versus Michigan. They're giving Michigan a 6.5-point favorite at home. Let me tell you something. Until I see Michigan beat Ohio State, I am picking Ohio State every time. So Ohio State, I would pick Ohio State to cover that. And then the last one, the Iron Bowl, a classic, Alabama versus Auburn. Alabama's a 2-touchdown favorite, a 14-point favorite as of right now. That sounds about correct, but you never know. It's the Iron Bowl. As I said earlier, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and I forgot the third team I said, and LSU. Those 3 teams, to me, have a shot to beat Alabama. Auburn should be thrown in there as well, but at this point, I think Auburn could be a possible dumpster fire at this point. Gus Malzahn's on the hot seat, so the spread sounds good, but I might lean towards Alabama covering that. And then the Army-Navy game. Army's a 10-point favorite in this one. Definitely take Navy to cover that. This game is always close, so definitely take Navy to cover that. So that's my reaction to each of the spreads. Comment down below. Tell me if you disagree with me. Also, comment. Tell me what you think about the spreads. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and please subscribe to the channel. It will be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching again, and this is McD the Beast signing off.